Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back with another movie review, and this time I'm reviewing Blunt Force Trauma. It's a 2015 film directed by Ken Sanzel. This is a crime, drama, thriller, I guess, and it stars Ryan Kwanten, Frida Pinto, Mickey Rourke, and Maruia Shelton. In this film follows the journey of John and Colt, gunfighters and sometime lovers, on parallel but very different journeys through an underground dueling culture. So, what did I think of Blunt Force Trauma? Well, this is something a bit different than usual. Um, Given that it does have itself down as an action thriller, the Blu-ray says it's an action thriller. I don't own the Blu-ray, but I saw that it did have a Blu-ray and I was like, oh, I wonder what it says. But it says action thriller. I would not consider this an action thriller. If anything, this is kind of a character journey kind of film. But not to the point where it becomes pretentious. I did quite like the film. Does it have its issues? Yes, and I will mention them. But overall, I did enjoy my time with it. But let me get to the cast. Ryan Kwanten plays John. He is the main character. He is a gunfighter. He's trying his hardest to get up in the ranks so that he can beat Zoringer, who is the ultimate gunfighter. And I think he does a pretty good job here. I don't think he's like a bad actor at all. I think he holds the screen pretty well. He does kind of play the kind of stoic, um, doesn't say too much good guy well. He's got the look for it. And yeah, I liked him in the film. Frida Pinto plays Colt, who ends up kind of joining John in his journey. She has her own kind of vendetta against this guy that apparently killed her boyfriend, or her brother. Excuse me, it was her brother. And she's out to get revenge. Um, she, at, at first glance, looking at her, if you see this actress and think you recognize her, you probably seen the film Slumdog Millionaire. She was the girlfriend or the girl that the main character played by Dev Patel was in love with. Um, but um, she does a good job in this too, actually. Ended up buying her as one of these gunfighters. She's strong but doesn't overdo it. She doesn't try to be like, "Oh, I'm better than all the men" or anything. She doesn't try to do any of that bullshit, which I hate. But she plays the character well, and I thought she acted it really well. There's a lot of nice moments between her and Ryan Kwanten, acting wise. Um, Mickey Rourke plays Zoringer. He is the ultimate gunfighter. He's barely in the film. He's probably in the film maybe 10 minutes. He doesn't show up until the very end of the film. And on the poster, he is the third name, which at least they have an and before his name because at the most, this is a special appearance because he's kind of just phoning it in. He's the big bad guy. They don't really build up to him, and that is one of my issues with the film, but it was whatever. And Maruia Shelton is Wesley, who is this kind of like handler for Zoringer. She looks out opponents for Zoringer to go against. She's okay, she's there. But overall, this is one of those films that, again, I feel your experience watching it is going to depend on. It's going to really depend on what you think. What it really depends on what you go in expecting. If you expect this to be an insane action movie, then you're not going to be very happy with it. If you go in expecting this kind of contemplative drama slash thriller about underground illegal activities and stuff like that, and that's also a character journey, then I think you're gonna like the film. I don't think you're gonna be annoyed with it. I think you'd very much enjoy it. There are people that like that type of stuff that don't even like this, but I will say I do think this film does deserve a second chance. Back when it came out, it didn't get that huge high of reviews, and now it still doesn't get that high of reviews, and I do think it does a lot of things very well. First off, I want to mention that this film was reportedly made on a budget of $1 million. Now, I don't bring up budgets a ton unless I'm really either annoyed with how a movie looks with the budget or if the movie looks exceptional on the budget. This is on that side. I think this film looks very professional. It looks a lot better than many movies that I've seen that were 10 or 20 million dollar budget. Um, Easily beats most of the like later career Bruce Willis movies in looks department, and those usually had like 15, 20 million dollar budget. That this is clearly a film made by people who actually respect the craft, and they're stretching every single dollar they have. This film is chock full of practical effects because I don't think there is any CGI in it, which is refreshing. Because even though I have liked quite a few films with CGI blood or CGI gunshots or yeah, CGI muzzle flashes, it is something I usually try to avoid because it can usually take me out of a movie. And with the John Wick films, I will say it did take me out of them at times. Um, Mostly due to the repetition of them using the assets of the third film. But here, this film uses blood squibs, it uses um practical normal squibs for the bulletproof vests that the characters are wearing. It uses practical just blood effects in general, practical gore effects, which there isn't a lot of gore. That would be misleading, but there's like a throat slit at one point that looks pretty good that was practical. Um I think they're using practical lighting for the shots, and I think it adds to this kind of grungy underground feel that this has. And not grungy in the fact that it doesn't feel like a higher budget movie, but I do think it uses the budget well. Instead of trying to get like the biggest actors that they could for that budget of movie, they went with actors that were good for the roles. They probably didn't get paid a ton, but that I feel like they went for more the actors that fit the roles well, which is what I think is going on here. But I will say that Mickey Rourke, again, I wish he was in the film more to build up his character because they do talk about him a bit before going there. They're like, oh, it was Zoringer. He only picks the best. Whenever somebody goes there, they are either dead or they disappear or something like that, and they build up all this mystery. And then when you meet him, there's like 10 minutes of the movie left, and he kind of just gives off a big spiel, kind of like Bill does at the end of Kill Bill Volume 2, and then the gunfight happens, and it's like, you should have built this character up a bit more and give him a bit more screen time. Maybe don't have Mickey Rourke play him because apparently Mickey Rourke isn't a lot of fun to work with. Apparently he's a big dick. I don't know if that's true. I'm only saying what other people have said. Um, Another issue I'd say this film has is with pacing it sometimes. Now, again, this film is kind of going for a soul-searching kind of methodical pacing, but there are quite a few shots that that you could like cut down or have sped up a little, and it would make this a lot smoother experience. I think you could easily cut like 10 minutes out of this film. Not to say it got boring for me, but there were shots where I was like, okay, get it going. I understand what you're doing. You're trying to build up the tension. And sometimes the shots got so long that I was like, okay, this isn't tense anymore. This is a bit silly. But I do like the simplicity of the concept that there's these people in this underground ring. doing illegal gunfighting where each of the participants wears a bulletproof vest. They each have their guns holstered, and they do an old Wild West showdown for money. Each person puts a bet, and the winner takes both of the bets. Pretty simple stuff. And this main character wants to be one of the best. Um, and again, Ryan Quanten plays the character very well. I grew to really care for his character in the film. And yeah, it's a rewarding movie for people who watch. Well, okay. I'm not giving any spoilers, but if you watch this film, I'm not going to spoil anything. Watch through the credits and pay a very close attention. That's all I'm going to say about the ending. Watch the credits. When the screen comes back up and there's stuff going on behind the credits, look in the background. No one in the comments give anything away. Just saying that. But this is one of those films that some people label as kind of art house cinema. I don't like the term art house, and films that are labeled art house I'm usually not a fan of because they usually don't end well and they're usually just depressing for the sake of depressing. They're usually either depressing for the sake of being depressing, they end on a cliffhanger just to end on a cliffhanger, and or they lecture the audience on a social issue, which happens a lot. But the whole cliffhanger thing where films in art house genre tend to end without finishing the story. These same people that hate movies like Skin Trade, the ending of Skin Trade kind of leaving the ending open, which I'm not a fan of either, that ending for a sequel. How is sequel baiting any different from a film like Horse Girl that ends with basically nothing happening at the end and people giving it tons of awards because of originality or whatever? I want somebody to explain that to me. Somebody who loved Horse Girl and hates movies like Skin Trade that end sequel baiting. But anyways, this is a film I definitely would recommend. I think it's well worth people's time. Sorry I don't have more to say about it because it is one of those films that not a shit ton happens in it. The story of this it is one of those movies that you kind of admire for what it's able to do on the budget. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It is a good movie. I do think it is legitimately a good movie, but I can't say it's much more than that. Um, there are things that bug me. Again, Mickey Rourke barely having any screen time, the ways certain plot threads are handled, such as Colt's brother's plot line. Um, there are certain shots that hold for way too long, and that is a big thing with quote unquote art house films. But yeah, I still enjoyed the film. I think others should watch it. Um, I watched it on Tubi. I'll link it down in the description. Watched it for free. And yeah, that was my review of Blunt Force Trauma. If you've seen the film, let me know in the description what you thought of it. If you have any recommendations for what I should watch next, go ahead and let me know. And movie review next door.